We're going to look at the Sharp Fast Sharpening System by TMI Products today. And first of all, the base for this system is set up so that there are slotted holes which allow for adjustment once you start to mount it under your wheel. On either end there is a notch, and that notch is the center of this. And what you want to do is actually draw a center line through on the center of your wheel and use those notches on either end to mount your base so that it's absolutely parallel with the side of the wheels, perpendicular to the face of the wheel. That's very important so that you get even grinds. The next part of this then is this head, and we'll talk about adjustments on it. I want to point out that there is a very small hole here. That is there for you to use as a basis for starting the shape that you want on your gouge. The last part of this is the slide arm, which mounts into the base, and the head simply slides into there. By doing it this way, this is locked, and there's no way for the tool to move around on the wheel from side to side. It's locked on center. So let's get this set up now, and we'll look at the various settings that you need to do once you've got the unit set on your grinder. You're going to want to use the head and put it in here and put a gouge in it at the distance that you want to set it out. Now, to set that distance, there's several things you can do. You can have a block on the base of your grinder. You can just use a ruler and measure it. The distance isn't all that critical. It's that it needs to be consistent, somewhere around 1 3/4 to 2 inches, but it doesn't have to be any particular measurement other than every time you put it in, it needs to be the same. Now there's one little trick that we can do, and that is there's a slot in here that you can actually just cut a little piece of wood and slide it in, and then you can bring your holder up and simply slide it against the face of there and put the tool in, and that can be your gauge if you choose to do it that way. Lots of ways to do that. Now we put this tool in, and when we bring it up, if you'll notice on the slide arm I have 2 pieces of masking tape. Those are there depending on what tool I'm doing. In this case I have a spindle gouge with a fairly steep angle on the end of the gouge. So I'm at this tape forward because you move the slide arm in and out. So if I wanted this angle to be less, I would slide this back, and when I would bring it up, it would be a more blunt angle. So for steeper angles, typically my spindle gouges, I'm going to use that mark. So you can put that mark on yours. You don't have to measure anything. Once you get it set, you're there. Again, we adjust the angle to give the shape. I've got this at a neutral setting where the notch is all lined up, and that's going to give me a shape just like I've got on this tool. And it's just a nice middle of the road type of grind. It's not real long on the sweep back, but it gives you good clearance. Now one thing that I want to mention, on this grinder I have these CBN wheels, and these are sold by Wood Turner's Wonder, and these wheels make all of this that much better. And what I'm getting at is that they turn very, very true, and they don't wear down as a normal grinding wheel does. These marks that I have here, this masking tape, wouldn't work if I had a regular grinding wheel because it's going to wear away. The diameter gets smaller. I have to move the slide arm in to correspond to the wear of the wheel. I have none of that with these wheels. These cut very cleanly and very cool as well. We do not sell these. I just know that from experience they are a great wheel if you're looking for a CBN wheel. Now let's look at this if I want to do a bowl gouge. So I take this out, and if I'm going to do a bowl gouge again with sort of that neutral setting, not a big long end on it, just a kind of a nice normal bowl gouge size, I'll open the clamp up here, slide this in. We'll set that length. Again, just bring this up here, slide it up, lock it in place. And again, I haven't changed any other settings on here, okay? I do this, drop this in now to get the right angle. I'm going to simply slide back, to the masking tape at the other end, lock this, and now I can reproduce that grind every time without having to measure or check anything. Just simply get the tool the same distance out, don't move the head, put it in, and there it is. It will repeat that grind. These wheels also are wider than a standard grindstone so that your tool stays in full contact with the face of the wheel as you're doing this. Now we're going to talk about if you like to do your tool with this long sweep back where the sides come way back down on the side of the tool. Okay, so we still mount this in the same way. So again, the adjustment here is nothing changes here, nothing changes on the slide arm. I get this again, set this on, get this distance. Now here's where I have to make a change. I am going to actually rotate this head up by lifting the handle. I'm going to bring that up and I'm going to go so that the notch now is at the edge of the hole. When I do that, that changes how far this grinds the side back. Now that requires, to get the bevel on the wheel where I would want it, to move the slide arm again. And you notice I don't have a setting actually for that because I don't use this grind, but I want you to see that this will reproduce that very long grind on this tool very, very easily. Again, that is by raising the handle. That brings this cutting edge back longer. So that's really the only adjustment you make. If you sharpen your bowl gouges all with the same shape, no need to make any changes in any of this. So that's all there is. The one other thing, there's a collar on this shaft, and that collar simply determines how tall this is, so that when I put a tool in here and lock it in place, I want the tool to come into contact with the wheel at or just above the center of the wheel. So you can see the center line is here. I'm just slightly above that. If I had a taller grinder or a lower grinder, maybe you have a 6-inch instead of an 8-inch wheel, then you would simply move this collar according to that, and that's the only time you ever adjust it. One time when you set it up to your grinder. These other settings, as long as you use the same setting for your spindle tools and your bowl gouge, you don't change the angle of the head, and you can just simply use these two to change the bevel angle on the end. That's all there is to this. As long as you get a grind that you really like, you can set one thing, just slide the slide arm in or out, and you can do all your spindle gouges and all of your bowl gouges. And it doesn't matter the size of the gouge. It can be a 3/8, it can be a half, any of those, and you'll be able to use exactly the same settings. So that is the complete system for doing gouges with the Sharp Fast system. We do also have a platform, and this platform, simply I can slide this unit out and slide this in. This would be used if you're doing skews and roughing gouges and other tools, you know, maybe even cabinet scrapers or whatever. You can, you know, grind those and sharpen the edge of them, straighten them up, and get a fresh edge on those tools.